Welcome as I unmute everybody. Welcome to our Thursday talk. And today we have self management. So, before we get started, I just wanted to tell you a couple things. Welcome to everybody that is watching on Zoom Live. You are in for a treat. We have Sister Judy today, and everybody that is on Facebook and YouTube. We are so glad that you could join us today. And a couple of programs that we wanted to kind of let you know about. We do have Reviving the Higher Self that's coming up on May 2nd to the 8th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. If you have not taken that course yet, it's a 7-day course. It is unbelievable. You will definitely see a shift in your life after taking that course. We also have daily talks. Power Boost is at noon and it's Monday through Friday. And then you have good night meditation just to kind of wind your day down every night. And it is at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And on Sundays, it's going to be at 7:30. So we encourage you to watch any of those shows and just give us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. But today's program is actually brought to you by the Meditation Center and in Manhattan, as well as Peace Village Retreat Center. So two amazing facilities if y'all haven't visited. Now that COVID restrictions are lifting a little bit, I would encourage you to call them, see if they're available so that you can actually visit live in person. So today's talk is brought to you by Judy Rodgers, and Judy's going to give us some practical tips on self-management. I know it's always easy to manage others than having to get that spotlight back on ourselves. So we're going to take some tips from Judy on how to actually manage the self. So I'm going to turn it over to Judy.
It's nice to see you. Hello, everyone. I'll always appreciate it if some of you come on camera, so I'm not looking at your black screens with your names. But if you can't, I accept. Hi, Star. Nice to see you. Lisa. So you know what I thought I'd do tonight, Mita. Hello, Perry. I'm not thinking so much tonight about managing yourself versus managing others. Hi, Julia. What I want to think about a little bit is how do we manage ourselves in these times? Because we're in a really different time, and so I thought we'd think a little bit about that. About the time, what's going on in the time, and then how do we manage in that time? Is that all right with you? A slight veering off of the main topic, but I think we'll get to the stuff you'd be interested in. So first, I just want to think with you about what is going on in these times. They're kind of unpredictable, would you say? Oh, thank you. Good to mute when you're not talking. And I want to invite you to interrupt me throughout. All right. You don't need to wait till the end. So I think the times we're in are challenging. And they require kind of a special quality of self-management. And so I want to think a little bit about what is going on in these times. And first is, I think they're very unpredictable. We suddenly have a foot of snow on April 15th, or we have a lot of people out in the public who have mental illness, and they do all kinds of things, some of them very scary. We have a pandemic. We're into year 2 to year 3. I think we've passed the 2-year mark of a global pandemic. Philadelphia says everybody puts on masks. All the airlines say everybody take them off. So then we have the economy, right? Completely unpredictable. So, how do we plan? How do we plan to live in a time like that? And then there's politics. Now, I find I'm backing away a bit from the political conversations. Used to be we just had differences with people. Now we actually think they're bad, right? If they don't think like us, there's something off with them. So these times are really kind of a roller coaster. They're very unpredictable. Another aspect of these times is that things happen really suddenly. Used to be that you could kind of plan for what was going to happen. You had a bit of a sense of the direction things were going. We really don't have that now. We really don't know what's going to show up on the news in any given night. And so the fact that it's unpredictable and the fact that it happens very quick can be very disorienting. There's a little bit of mean-spiritedness, and I don't know if you're picking it up too, but a little bit of, I don't know what I'd call it, public meanness or something, the public space. So some of the kindness and sweetness that used to live in the public space has been seeping away, which makes us feel perhaps a little bit unsafe. Feels like there's not a safe harbor so much anymore. People used to feel pretty safe, kind of in general, the safety was their default, and they knew sometimes they had to be more careful. But now our super carefulness is our default, and we don't often feel that we're in the state where we can feel totally safe. So the world is different. And I know I've talked to people who say, well, it's always been like this, but I'm getting older, and I can assure you that it wasn't always like this. It's different. And those of you who remember a different time know that. So how do we make sense out of that? What's going on? What is going on with these times that make them so different? So I'm going to propose to you something from that you can completely reject. I'm fine with that. If you don't like it, just throw it out the window. But the Brahma Kumaris, with many other Asian background paths of faith, understand time to be cyclical. Now, Western religions don't believe time is cyclical. They believe time is linear, starts with the Big Bang and then kind of goes forward into infinity, hopefully getting better. But with most Asian religions, and this would include Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism, and the Brahma Kumaris fall into that category, the understanding is that time is actually a cycle. Like the day is a cycle, like the year is a cycle with the seasons, that time is a macro version of a cycle. And part of that framework has to do with there being 4 major ages. Another aspect of this notion of time being cyclical is the notion that time actually at the first age in this cycle is actually beautiful. In fact, you could say the first age is considered to be almost perfect, like paradise, Eden, beautiful, balanced, harmonious, simple, virtuous, that we have this in our memory that there was a better time. So if you think this is a possibility, you don't have to believe it. Just stay with me for a minute and consider it might be a possibility. In that notion, one of the principles that is at work is a principle of entropy. The idea that things start new and then they run down. And so in this construction, in this framework, the idea is that the world in time begins in a state of beauty, moral beauty, physical beauty, emotional beauty, spiritual beauty, all kinds of beauty. and that over time, the natural world and the spiritual world that dwells within the natural world begins to lose its, what you might call, integrity, loses its strength, becomes weak, becomes compromised, becomes impure. So in this construct, as you move through the ages, you get to the final age in the cycle that is an age of, it has many names, Kali Yuga, Iron Age, but the idea is that it is a time when the world has become exhausted. It's like the winter, right? You can't see the leaves anymore. You can't see the life in it anymore. It's become compromised and tired. And this would include the natural world, and it would also include the spiritual world. It's become attached, the spiritual world's become attached to the natural world and has run down with that. So in that construction, we look around at the world we're in, and the explanation for the calamities and the sudden changes, including the weather, just these wild changes of weather, etc., would be that we're in this final era, this era of heaviness, darkness, weakness, impurity, whatever angle you want to take on it. Some people think of it as a time when karmas are settled. If you understand the other big law, so law of entropy is one big law, one big universal law, and another big universal law is the law of karma, right? Whatever we do comes back to us. So this is a time then of the settling of karmas. So a lot of the discomfort and pain and all of that goes on are these karmas being settled. The good news is that our understanding is that at the end of this fourth age, the creator, the energy of the creator, re-enters the world and restarts the new cycle. So that means that there's actually two energies at work in the world right now. One of them is a descending energy, the energy of entropy, the energy of breakdown, which you recognize. It's easy to see the energy of breakdown. It's very noisy. It's very visible. It makes a lot of racket, right? It's about war and conflict and collapse and imploding and all of that. But the other energy, and so that energy is very visible, but the other energy that's at work is an ascending energy. This is the energy of the creator entering the world. This is an energy of strength, actually. It's an energy of love. It's an energy of peace. It's an energy of contentment and happiness, kindness and empathy. It's a constructive energy. And it's an uplifting energy. So both of these things are going on right now, right? Now I'm going to come back to this because I want to make a point a little bit later, but I'm positing to you, I'm proposing to you that if you're trying to make sense out of this time, this is one way to make sense out of this time, that much of the world is falling apart, is collapsing, and we feel those reverberations. Now, in the weakening world, because the energies, the creative energies that were in the world long ago and that are re-entering now are very subtle. And so what you're feeling are the missing of those energies, right? So instead of peace, we have peacelessness. Instead of love, we have a lovelessness. Instead of happiness, we have heaviness and sort of a kind of a permanent case of sorrow. So, and there's a weakness and there's a general impurity. Now, by impurity, I mean everything is impure. The water is impure. The air is impure. The soil is impure. And the quality of the souls are also impure. The quality of the thoughts of the souls are weak and impure, right? Now, those energies of weakness and impurity, each one of those energies has a vibration. So sorrow has a vibration. Anger has a vibration. Worry, anxiety. So as we're making our way through this world, we are picking up an atmosphere of those vibrations. Those influences are affecting us. They create an inner mood, right? They cause us to feel certain things. And so if we aren't able to manage ourselves, the topic for the night, if we're not able to get inside our own minds and hearts and make choices about what energies we want to be at work inside, then we will naturally be affected by these weak and impure energies in the world. Are you with me so far? Is it making sense? Okay. So, what do we do about this? What's the strategy that we want to adopt in order to manage? What's the lifeboat that's going to get us through this stormy water? And the people we love, right? Because we're not only concerned about ourselves, we're concerned about our children, we're concerned about our parents, our friends, our colleagues, etc. So what's going to get us through? How are we going to manage? So first, we have to remember that even though these negative energies are kind of at large in the world, even though they're kind of roaming around in the world, they are not the foundational energies of the soul or of the creation. They are acquired energies. So when you look at the human self, and I'm going to presume that many of you, maybe most of you that are on this call tonight, are pretty familiar with the territory of the spiritual being inside. So that spiritual being, whatever you call it, I'm going to call it the soul, but you can call it the true self or whatever. That being is an energy, is an energetic presence. And it's constituted of certain core energies. So the seed energy, you might say, is purity. The soul is inherently pure. And we can talk a little bit later if we have time about what that means. The soul is inherently peaceful. At its root, in its core, uncompromised state, when it's in its original state, it's completely pure and completely peaceful. It's also completely loving. In other words, the outpouring of this powerful vibration we know as love, this unconditional love, is natural to the soul. You don't have to teach an infant how to love. If any of you, have you ever been in the presence of an infant? Do you ever have to teach them how to light up? I mean, why do we get in their faces and we start making baby talk? Because we know they're just going to beam at us, right? That's the way souls are when they're born. We arrive loving. Now, we can lose our loving nature if we're not met with love, but it doesn't leave the soul. It could be covered up by sorrow or disappointment or something else, but the soul's innate nature is love. You cannot remove love from the soul. just like you couldn't remove wood from a tree. The soul is made of love. The soul is made of peace. The soul is made of purity. The soul is made of happiness. These vibrational energies are the constituency of the soul. They don't go away. They can be covered up, but they don't go away. You can't have your love stolen from you or your peace stolen from you. You can lose track of it because you connect with something else. Now, what I want you to think about, let's think about the word yoga. This word is thrown around a lot. So let's think about this word yoga. Yoga really means whatever the self, the soul, is connecting to. So I could be in yoga with my local library. I could be in yoga with dinner because I smell it and I want to eat it. And suddenly my mind is attached to the kitchen and I can't wait for the dinner to come out. I could be in yoga with fear. My mind could be so attached to all the scary bad things that could happen that it could constantly be hooked into something fearful. And I could be riveted in that. I can also be in yoga with love, with peace, with joy, with contentment. Now, the most elevated yoga that the soul can have is the soul can connect to the Creator, to the source energy, to God, to whatever you call that. There's a million names for that soul, but that soul is the source of life. And a lot of our meditation practice has to do with learning how to be in the consciousness of who we are as souls and how to link with the source. Because when you link with the source, then you automatically have access to all those fundamental energies. But most of us walking around the streets of wherever we are, New Jersey, Alabama, Washington, New York, we often don't notice that we have a choice. We just kind of connect to whatever's out there. So if somebody's having a big temper tantrum next to us, we connect with that. Some bad piece of news comes on in the evening, we connect with that. A child comes home and someone's been mean to them at school, we connect with that. And then we wonder why we're not feeling well. Why am I in a bad mood? Why do I feel weak? Why do I feel overwhelmed with all this? Why am I getting sick all the time? Because we don't notice that we have a choice about what to connect to. And it's not a trivial choice. You could say this is sort of a life and death proposition. Because if you connect day after day after day with a negative energy, with fear and anxiety and sorrow and trauma and everything else, then that becomes your state of being. Those outside influences seep in because we've allowed them to seep in, and they've now filled our heart. Our hearts are gripped in terror, and they've filled our minds. We're driving along, but what are we thinking about? We're thinking about this thing that's just scared us or that just made us sad or whatever. We're walking along. We mean to be paying attention to our child who's trying to tell us about their day at school, but actually we're thinking about whatever we heard on the news or whatever this person at work said or whatever. You know, we're not using our mind to create the kind of inner space from which we can do our best work, from which we can be our best self. We're allowing it to be taken over by squatters. these energies don't belong to us. And we're letting them move in and set up house as if they live there. So we have a choice about this. We don't need to let those energies move into our mind and into our heart. In fact, the very best thing we can do is not let them move in. It's best if we don't even let them visit. But if they do seep in, we need to notice they've come for a visit and we can show them the door. Now, this phenomenon I'm talking with you about, I don't want to make it sound like it's a walk in the park. Because if it were a walk in the park, everybody would be doing it, right? So first you have to wake up. Mostly when you walk onto a spiritual path, what's the language everybody uses? Waking up, right? I was asleep and now I'm awake. In other words, I was drifting along, allowing whatever was going on outside to be whatever's going on inside. And now I've come awake and I realize I don't want to live like that. And further, I realize I don't have to live like that. That's waking up. Now, waking up is a beginning, but most people go back to sleep. They wake up for a few minutes and they run and tell you about their cool meditation class or this great book they read, and then back to sleep. Why? Why do people go back to sleep? You know, it's the habit of our lives, right? We're surrounded with the same people. Sometimes these very negative people live in our house with us and we can't do anything about it, right? Somehow we're related to them and we can't like move out. We have to live there with them. So we've got to wake up and we've got to become strong so that we can be, you know, so we can live this kind of what you might call a realized life. So we can live a life in which we're choosing the inner state we're in. Instead of the outside seeping in, our aim is that we can create a powerful inner state, and that we can use to influence others. So instead of the outside seeping in, we become instruments to bring in a powerful, constructive state of love and peace and happiness and power and compassion and empathy and kindness. And we then become instrumental in that. Yeah? So when we are able to do this, I'm going to get to how we do this in a minute, but when we are able to control our inner state, to manage our inner state, to invoke our inner state, then a number of other things become possible. For example, when someone is rude to you, whether they pull out in front of you in traffic or they say something rude to you at a gathering, instead of reacting, saying something back to them or honking your horn or whatever the equivalent of that is, you don't do that because your inner state is now awake. And you think, I don't want to perpetuate that, right? That action, reaction, action, reaction. So you put a pause and you don't react. You choose how you're going to respond. Now, this makes a big difference. Let's go back to the law of karma. So if someone says something rude to you, and some of us live with people who say things rude all the time. You know, I have people say, I'm married to the person, or I'm related, or it's a sister or a brother or a sister-in-law or my mother-in-law or somebody, and I have to live with them. So that's excellent practice, isn't it? It's so useful to live with someone who aggravates you all the time because you get all this good practice. So if you react all the time, you are setting in motion a karmic bondage, right? Because they say something, you react. Now, what do? They react back. And so now you're all tangled up with this person. So when that person's around, where's your yoga? Right? You're thinking about them. You're replaying the last scene that you had with them, or you're wishing you'd thought to say such and such, or you're congratulating yourself that you did say such and such, right? Round and round and round, a total waste of time. And it has captured your mind. The reason we call it a karmic bondage is it has captured your mind. Your mind is not free. It can't think about anything else but this person with whom you have this thing. So when you have this inner mastery, when you are able to invoke these inner states, these powerful inner states, you don't react. You look at that person with some detachment. You can see something in them that you like, something that's actually pretty nice. They're good to animals, they're good cook, whatever. And you don't get caught in this reaction. That's one of the gifts of being able to create this inner state. It then liberates you. Then you actually are on a different karmic path. You don't have to keep on that loop with them. So that's one of the benefits. Another benefit is that we gain the wisdom and the capacity to forgive ourselves. This is not trivial. Many of us have done things that we feel so bad about. We carry a lot of guilt about it. We replay the scene in our mind. We feel worse every time we replay it. We remember what we did. We feel it's irretrievably wrong, and we get very heavy about it. When you can conjure up the inner states that I'm talking about here, including kindness and compassion, you learn that you can forgive the self. There is nothing you have done that cannot be forgiven. Nothing. You could be the worst person in the world, which I don't think you are, but let's just say for the sake of the example that you did something really, really terrible. Everything can be forgiven. But the ones that are hardest, we're hardest on ourselves, right? We hold ourselves to such a high standard. When we did something disappointing, we feel so bad. If only I had said this, if only I had done this, etc. So first we learn to forgive ourselves. That's huge. It's huge because as long as I am holding self-blame or guilt in the heart, it will affect every relationship I have. It will compromise my relationships with everybody else. It will also affect my ability to connect to God. That's why we have to forgive, responding to the chat. Because when I go inside, for me to be able to connect with the source energy, which is the ultimate ambition of our meditation practice, is to be able to first experience ourselves as the being inside, and second, connect to the source energy so that we can pull down those energies and invoke that in ourselves and sustain that. That is life-changing. It's world-changing. If we're holding blame inside for the self, we won't be able to do that. Because when we go inside, we end up, after a little while, that comes up again. And it pulls our attention away, so we cannot sustain that yoga. It's the same if we have blame for someone else. You know, we can feel that we were so wronged by someone. They did something so wrong that I can never forgive them. So as long as I feel that they did something so wrong that I can never forgive them, I am caught in the thing they did. I can't move on because I am caught in the feeling of blame. Do you understand the inner dynamic of it? Can you see how it holds you? So if I'm blaming myself or I'm blaming someone else, that energy of blame, it's an energy, right? Blame is an energy that harms us. On some level, we think, well, you know, they don't deserve my love. But who's losing out? If we blame somebody, who's losing out? Where does the blame live? It's not living in their house, right? It's living in our hearts. So as long as we're saying that, you know, they're the ones who did the wrong thing, they don't deserve my love, they don't deserve my forgiveness, then my heart is filled with blame, and that blocks my relationships. And it mostly blocks, the important one, it blocks my relationship with the one, with Source, with God. Very harmful. Now, back to this inner state. So when I've been able to invoke this inner state of love and peace, when I've gotten the influences from outside, I'm holding them at bay, and I'm in this energy that's my original nature, my original love, my original goodness, my original purity and peace and power, contentment, compassion, empathy, love, awe, joy, gratitude, all of that belongs to the soul. When I pull it up from inside, I don't have to go get it anywhere. When I pull it up from inside, and this is my state, it's not hard to forgive someone when you're in that state. And it's not hard to forgive ourselves. So what does that sound like? In my mind, I say, you know what? I apologize for this thing I did. When I did this thing, I didn't see that I had an alternative. I did the thing I felt I had to do. And I see now that it was harmful. It was harmful to someone else. It was harmful to me. And I apologize from the bottom of my heart. And I release myself from any further heaviness and bondage from this. And I have the deep wish that the other person will be able to let this go as well, so that we can live in peace. Right? It's not that hard. It's not that hard. If you are carrying something like that, it's time to let it go. Tonight, before you go to bed, don't even wait till tomorrow. Let it go. If it's blame against you, if it's blame against someone else, do not carry it for another minute. You totally have the capacity to do this. So that's something else that you are able to do when you can conjure this inner state. The most important thing of all of it is that we can become donors. We can become those who give to others. There is no greater joy. You know that, right? I'm telling you something you've already experienced. There is no greater joy than giving to others. Whatever you give them, birthday cake, flower you picked in the yard, but most important thing you can give them is your honest, good wishes and pure feelings. No matter who they are, no matter what they have done, may things go well for you. May you be at peace. May you be in joy. May you be in harmony. Let me look here. We've got something going on in the chat. What if I can let go much easier than others? How do you recommend I deal with frequent blaming by others? Well, people do what they do, right? We can't control what anybody else does, right? We have only one sphere of control, and that's us. And that is a full-time job. I find if we can manage that, that is a full-time job. We cannot manage what other people feel. If we forgive them completely and we hold only love for them, only love, we just say, may things be okay for you. I understand you're struggling. It's okay. But you did such and such and such and such. Thanks for sharing. May things go well for you, right? Don't take the hook. Because when we take that hook, I've got to respond to that, then we're back in that loop again with them. No need. There's no need to prove anything. The truth is the truth. And if your truth becomes forgiveness, if your truth becomes love, then it doesn't matter what other people say. Doesn't matter. Let them say whatever they want. What they're saying is coming from their inner state, right? So if they're speaking in anger, it's because they have anger inside. If they're speaking in worry, it's because they have worry inside. If you have removed the anger and the worry from inside of you, and you are filled with love, why would you go back and respond in anger? Because the anger has been removed from you. So now you respond from the love inside and create a different karmic path. Makes sense? Yeah? Okay. So how do we do this? So all of this hinges on our being able to create these inner states. How do we do this? I would say that this is a function of your knowledge, which you could also call wisdom, and your power, right? Because you can be knowledgeable and weak, and you won't be able to do it. You can be not knowledgeable or wise and powerful, and you won't be able to do it. So to be able to create the inner states of, invoke them, create is one word, but invoke them, pull them up from inside, emerge them, you have to have the knowledge that they're there. I would say you have to have three things. One, you have to have the knowledge that these states are who you are. Two, you have to have the faith that this is really who you are. And three, you have to have the power. You have to become a powerful soul. Now, when we talk about power, we're not talking about power over anybody, right? We're talking about your own power to access your own capacities, your own strengths, your own virtues. It is your meditation practice that will allow you to do this. How many of you have a meditation practice? I'm expecting all of you have a meditation practice. Yes? Stephen, I know you do. Yeah? All of you. I think so. Now, you all may not have a daily practice. And this, I would say that when you make them move, see, some people meditate on good days, right? I'm having a good day, I think I'll meditate. Some people meditate on bad days. I'm having a bad day, I need to meditate. Now, the problem with that is when you're having a bad day, it's pretty hard, isn't it, to sit down and create that state, because all you can think about is what a bad day you're having and how upset you are about whatever is bothering you that day. For this to work, you have to have a daily meditation practice. No compromises. You have to sit down and meditate every day. Now, when I talk about meditation, there's a lot of kinds of meditation, right? There's mindfulness where you become aware. I'm Judy, I'm walking, I'm thinking, I'm sitting, I'm in a quiet place, I'm in a peaceful place. Nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. But what I'm talking about is, and I will try to get to some of these questions in the chat. What I'm talking about is Raj Yoga meditation, which after my search, I've landed as the one that is most helpful for the thing I'm talking about. Your ability to create, to invoke and sustain powerful, pure, loving, peaceful inner states, no matter what is going on outside, no matter what someone said to you, no matter what the headline says, right? Now, meditation. If you manage 10 minutes every morning, good for you. Good for you. If you manage when you get up to sit down, quiet your mind, and have 10 minutes of awareness of who you really are, good for you. That's great. If you can do more than that, you will see the results immediately. It's not like you have to wait 6 months and then maybe you'll see something. No, you will see it immediately within the week. So what can you do? Well, one thing I would say is that for some of you who live in households filled with people, sometimes you have to get up a little bit earlier than all of them. I mean, if they all get up at 7:30, you might have to get up at 6:45. You'll have to beat them up, right? You've got to get in the house when it's quiet. Second, sometimes you want to read something a little inspirational. So keep a couple of things that you like to read right there. Could be poetry, could be some bit of a spiritual something you've seen or heard. Maybe you want to listen to something for a few minutes. Some people use a guided meditation for that. But you can have something to kind of get your mind in the right place. Now, some people, we do open-eyed meditation because when you keep your eyes open, you're less likely to fall asleep and you're more likely to be able to integrate meditation into your life, into your work, into you're sitting on the train, you're sitting in your office. If you've learned to meditate with your eyes open, you just make that connection. No one knows if you're meditating or not, right? You could be thinking deep company thoughts. So you take those few minutes, you inspire yourself, you be quiet. What are you doing? You are turning inside. You are locating yourself as the being inside. You are invoking one of these states I'm talking about. Maybe it's love, maybe it's peace, maybe it's joy, maybe it's empathy, compassion, kindness, gratitude. You are invoking that state. And if you can manage it, you are connecting to the source energy, which once you understand how to do that, you will feel when you have that connection. And you will feel the current of these qualities coming into the soul and activating the soul, bringing the soul alive, filling you with those energies. If you can manage 15 minutes or a half hour, even better. But most important, do it every day. Now, meditators often will tell you that they set their intention in the morning, and then at night, they have a brief review of the day and they kind of let things go. Because what happens is, if I had a little upsetting thing happen in the morning or in midday, and then I didn't take care of it, I just kind of stuffed it, it's still sitting there. right? It'll kind of hang out in the mind. So at night, what you're doing is you just go through your day. Gosh, I should have done that better. Next time I'll do that better. That bothered me a little when that person said that, but I'm going to let that go. Just a fairly quick remove it, quiet yourself down, and take yourself to sleep in peace. Now, if you have a bigger ambition, no problem. Your local meditation center will offer you all kinds of other things you can do. There's longer retreats and things, but the basics are what matters here, because you'll find if you just do what we're talking about right now, you sit in the morning for a little bit, you quiet your mind down, you set an intention for the day, and you connect, then you'll find that you're getting very clear and very powerful. Now, I covered a lot of territory in a short time. Things are stacking up in the chat. I'm hoping we can do a little meditation together, but let's see what's here. So we have many things. Okay. Why is it important to practice forgiveness? What if you don't? I think I touched on that, right? That it gets between you and your relationships. It gets between you and your relationship with God. I tried removing I from most things, decreased many circles of action and reaction. Great. What if I can let go much easier than others? We talked about that. Don't be affected by what others do. Just do it yourself. What happens if you react and get stuck in a bondage? What's the bad consequence? The bad consequence is you lose your freedom. When you're in a karmic bondage, you are no longer free. Your mind is trapped in someone else, and your mind goes and thinks about them all the time, and you lose your capacity for freedom. It's a big price to pay. 3 of them. Yes, I think what I said was knowledge, faith, and power, right? So you have to have the knowledge of what can happen. You have to have the faith that this is who you really are, and then you have to have the power to go ahead and act on it. I can forgive, but how to deal with the pain of betrayal? The way to deal with the pain of betrayal is to return to these states I'm talking about. I know, we don't have, if we were together at Peace Village and we had a whole weekend and you had all come and we were talking about these things, then we would take each of these and we'd kind of linger on it, because I don't want to treat them lightly. Betrayal is a terrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling when you had faith in someone and they betrayed you. It can really, it can be quite distressing. But I would say to you, as a simple, inadequate answer, that our inner state, our karmic account, our self-respect comes not from what someone else does to us. It comes from what we do. Our actions, our thoughts and our actions generate the same quality of response inside of us. So, in the case of the pain of betrayal, if I sit around and think about the betrayal, I am trapped in the thoughts of being harmed. If I can manage to put myself on the seat of feeling regard for myself, knowing that I am a loving and good and kind soul, I can look at that other one and I can say, may things go well for you. I am not going to get tangled up in this with you. I know how I feel about these things and I wish you the very best, but I'm not going to hold a bunch of thoughts about it. I'm not going to wallow in this. I'm not going to get stuck in it. I know I'm saying something that's really hard. You have to have a really strong meditation practice. But I also know that sometimes when we look back on something that killed us at the time, and we look back on it from a higher place, we realize that it was a test, that it was really just a test. And that if we were able to let it go, say, whatever you did, you did. Whatever you said or did, you're responsible for that. I am not going to hold on to it. I wish you the very best. Once we get to that point, we look back on those things and we realize that they made us really strong. And like I say, I don't want to make light of what you're dealing with. How would you describe Raj Yoga versus mindfulness meditation? I would say with mindfulness, it's a lot about awareness, being in the moment, being alert. With Raj Yoga meditation, it's about making the move from being body conscious or locked in a material, physical consciousness versus being in a spiritual soul consciousness. And once in the soul consciousness, connecting to the source. That's way too simple. We would need 7 days to talk about that. Luckily, you have that offer. I heard it at the beginning of the session. Does it have to be only in the early morning? No, it does not. Generally, most meditators like the early morning because your mind is fresh and the world is quieter. If early morning doesn't work for you, you do it when it works for you. The most important is every day. A test and often an opportunity, yes. Okay, everyone. Anything else that feels urgent? I know we've covered a lot of territory. It wasn't my intention to go quite so far ranging, but yes, my pleasure. So do you want to close with a meditation? Want to meditate together for a few minutes? Let's do that. Okay, so I want you to get very comfortable, but I want you to be sitting up. So I want you either to be sitting on your feet, if that's most comfortable for you, or I want you to be, have them on the floor, one or the other. Either your feet are on the floor or they're under you, okay? Your neck is over your spine so that the flow of energy can be steady. Okay. Now, for the next few minutes, I want you to forget everything I said. I don't want you to be thinking at all. Take a deep breath. Allow all the things in your outside world to become kind of quiet, like birds sitting on a telephone wire. Just let them all quiet down. Don't let anything pull your attention. And turn your attention inside. You become aware you are this being of light. You're sitting right behind the eyes, a little point of light. And have the awareness that you are beautiful. You are spiritually beautiful. You are pure. You are peace. It's not just that you are peaceful. You are peace. You are imperturbable. Nothing can disturb you. You are like a glass lake. who are filled with love. Love for the self, love for everyone you know, and love for everyone you don't know. And vibrations of peace and love emanate out from you into the world. You're like a lighthouse. And from this place of absolute peace and generous, altruistic love, you can instantly touch the divine. So you allow your attention to go up like a beam of light until it rests with the One, the source of all your beauty and virtue. And you feel the current of all of that peace and love, bliss. And everything that comes to you immediately flows out from you. In this state, nothing can disturb you. No outside influence, no wanting, no old memory. In this state, you are completely powerful, pure, and lovely. And have the awareness that you can take yourself to this state anytime you want. And that it's not just a state for when you're sitting in meditation, but as you get more powerful, it's the state in which you move through the world. So making this your aspiration, bring your attention back to the room you're in, the moment you're in, retaining all the beauty of the inner state you've created. Om Shanti.